Take me back to Libya, where the drums still play my song. Take me back to my homeland. It's the place where I belong.
LIB Future TV, giving voice to progressive Liberians, speaking about politics, entertainment, and local news.
Welcome back, LIB Future TV family, to another week in review. I always miss my LIB Future TV family during the week. Hope you all had a wonderful week. How are you doing, Jefferson?
Well, I'm okay. I'm doing great. Just that we're experiencing a heavy downpour of rain here currently in the Liberian capital and other parts of the country as well.
Okay, so is the rainy season starting yet?
Yeah, it started since April 15, according to our seasonal, routine. April, that is April 15 to May, October. So yes, since April 15 the rain started, but it's just been breaking in. Yes.
Well, we hope we can get through the show, but if we can't, we understand. We had a heavy rain not too long, I think this week as well. A lot of rain pour, but but how was the week? How was the week?
Well, the week was hectic, but yet it was okay. As always, we sign up to a duty that we never complain. Yeah, we always but it was wonderful though.
Good. Yeah, I was busy this week. I was in court almost every day this week, and I won my case today, which always
Wow,
feels good.
congratulations, Star.
Yes, yes, my clients are very happy.
Mm.
But it takes a lot out of you to argue in front of a judge and argue against other lawyers in court. Afterwards, you just want to just lie down and you put your head down. You're so
Wow,
tired.
what kind of case was that?
Oh, this case was a real estate case during the coronavirus, COVID-19. What happened was the government told people, you don't have to pay your mortgage for 3 months. And here in the United States, when you want to buy a house, the expense is so high. So you have to go to a bank and get a loan. It's called mortgage. And this is something Mr. Cummings said he wants to introduce into Liberia too. So you go to the bank, you get a loan, they tell you how much you can get, you buy your house, and then you can pay on your house every month. But during COVID, the government said you don't have to pay because, everybody was stuck in the house. So we weren't working. So after 3 months, my clients didn't pay. Then the bank called them and said, you don't have to pay again for another 3 months. So it was 6 months. But my client said, let's start paying. So they started paying back on the 7th month and they kept paying. But every time they look at their mortgage statement, it says late, late, late. And they said, no, that's not supposed to be the case because we are covered by the COVID-19 laws. And long story short, the bank never fixed their paperwork and they wanted to buy another house for investment now. They're ready to buy another house to rent out. And they couldn't because the paperwork kept showing late, late,
Okay.
late. So when I got involved, I reached out to the bank and they kept lying. They kept lying and saying, oh, they didn't send back this or oh, they didn't send back that, but we had proof that they did. So we sued the banks. It was actually 3 banks involved. And they, when you sue a bank, you're suing very big companies. They threw everything at us. And finally today, the judge said, I'm sorry, it's too much evidence against you banks. So they won the case. And it feels good to help them because, they really wanted to buy another house and invest in properties. And at that time, it was a good time to do that. But now that time has passed because of what's happening in the world with Iran and the war, and things are just so different now. So they missed that opportunity, and that's why we sued those banks. But we have a very, very busy news day, and our lovely Lavina is not here.
Oh,
So
oh,
I'll read the news tonight for her.
okay.
And hopefully next week she'll be back. The first story: convicted, two acquitted in $6.2 million corruption trial as jury reaches split verdict. 15-member jury Friday issued a split verdict in a high-profile $6.2 million corruption trial, five former Liberian officials, convicting three defendants while fully acquitting two. Former Finance Minister Samuel D. Twe and ex-FIA Comptroller General Moses P. Cooper were found not guilty on all counts, including criminal conspiracy, economic sabotage, theft of public funds, and money laundering. International star Jazino visits ANC leader Cummings discussing youth empowerment. International musician Jazino on Tuesday paid a visit to Alternative National Congress political leader Alexander Cummings in Monrovia. The famous artist, whose music and morale have gained impactful traction in Liberia and abroad, is credited with putting Liberia's music in the international space. During the meeting, discussions focused on Cummings' agenda to practically empower Liberians, particularly young people who make up 70% of the population. Jazino's music, Jazino's visit comes as Liberian artists continue to expand their global reach, with leaders engaging creatives on youth development and economic opportunity. Experts warn of Liberia's dissent record could hurt governance standing. Legal experts and civil society groups, and experts such as LIB Future TV, Dr. Clarence Pearson, are warning that Liberia's tolerance for dissent and free speech is weakening, citing the country's failure to meet key MCC rule of law and government effectiveness indicators for FY 2025 and FY 2026. Freedom House's latest report and repeated MCC failures suggest Liberia's institutions continue to struggle with judicial independence, accountability, and public confidence, analysts say. Motorcyclist in chicken soup factory condemned an officer accused of shooting a commercial rider. Oh, wow. During a police intervention on Thursday, while the LNP denied social media reports that the victim died. Witnesses said police fired two shots, responding to a robbery suspect chase, hitting a motorcyclist who was later treated at JFK Hospital. The family member said the victim, a father who rides to support his family, is responding to treatment. Riders allege the officer has a history of harassing motorcyclists for money. CDC move condemn alleged attack on Yeke Koluba in Ganta. The CDC and MOVE have condemned what they call a violent attack on the Montserrado District former Representative Yeke Koluba, well, he doesn't say former, during a political tour in Ganta, warning of rising political intolerance under the Bokai Kun administration. In a joint statement, the parties called for the alleged assault cowardly, disgraceful, and completely unacceptable, saying it threatens democratic participation and freedom of movement. They accused the administration of presiding over suppression of dissent, political witch hunt, human rights violations since 2024. Buckeye counters Sirleaf on sanitation, addresses electricity, and demolitions. President Buckeye has pushed back on against former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's criticism on Monrovia's sanitation, insisting the Capitol is cleaner today than in previous years. Images of Center Street show a very different reality. He also stated that cleanup efforts are limited due to limitations on resources. President Buckeye offered no solutions to address the sanitation issues. Speaking at the fourth cabinet retreat on 2026, Buckeye responded to Sirleaf's Truth FM remarks, calling the city filthy and harmful to Liberia's international image. Sirleaf has suggested large-scale cleanup efforts could address the youth unemployment and improve governance perception. President Buckeye pointed out in the electricity sector that transformers are overloaded, but offered no solution to address electricity shortage. He also commented that demolitions were good for the public in the long term, but offered no solutions in providing housing to address homelessness created by the destroyed homes. Outrage after woman stripped naked at red light market over dressing. The public erupted Thursday after a young woman was stripped naked by a group of men at red light market who accused her of dressing indecently. Videos of the incident sparked condemnation from women's rights advocates, with police and market women intervening to cover the victim with a lapa. Women's rights advocate Councilor Mariah Yakula called the act troubling and disturbing, citing growing insecurity for women in the public sector. ANC leaders meet to discuss SGBV and youth inclusion. Former Speaker of the Liberian National Children's Parliament and current UN Youth Advisory Panel Board member, youth advocate Joel Gray, met with ANC political leader Alexander Cummings at his residence to discuss his vision and mission for Liberia. During the meeting, Cummings shared his plans for the country and was commended for joining other Liberians in preaching peace and love. The discussions focus on sexual and gender-based violence affecting women, children, and concerns about Liberia's justice system. The ANC Youth Congress launches Say No to Drugs campaign in District 10. The Youth Congress of the Alternative National Congress has launched the party's Say No to Drugs awareness campaign, targeting 10 high schools across District Number 10. As part of the initiative, 50 students from each school are recruited to anti-drug clubs established on their campuses. Organizers said the clubs will serve as platforms for education, peer support, and collective action against substance abuse among students. The campaign aims to equip young people with knowledge and tools to resist drug use and promote healthier school environments. These were the latest stories of the day.
Wow. Really.
So, Jefferson, tonight's topic, the first topic we're going to cover is, of course, the story with Samuel Twet and just how is the Unity Party dealing with the propaganda that they had always pushed during the campaign. And now we're in the reality where they have not gotten a conviction for Samuel Twet. They still haven't implemented the War Crimes Court and Economic Crimes Court, and they haven't made much progress in the asset recovery section. So let's go back. Let's go all the way back to the 2023 campaign. I can recall, because I watched the campaign very closely, that the Unity Party was saying during their campaign, we are going to get the condominiums. We are going to take those mansions back. We are going to go after these people who are stealing from the government. All of this rhetoric that they had during the campaign. Now here we are. The reality is here. One of the biggest profile case. They spent so much of the Liberian people's money on this case. And they have lost. They lost this case. And this is a public embarrassment because as a lawyer, watching the way how this case rolled out, I never understood what happened to the money. They never explained that to us. Now, if you're in a criminal case, my people, you have to prove this evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. There can be no reasonable doubt as to what happened. Is higher, the standard of proof is higher than a civil case. In a civil case, you just have to prove more likely than not something happened. It has to be 51-49%, you know. But in a criminal case, you have to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt. And when you are prosecuting these type of financial crimes cases, you have to walk your jury through every single step of the way. The jury has to know the money was here, the money went here, then the money went here. But I never heard after the money left the bank, what happened to the money? They didn't show us. How could they say Samuel Twed did something if they don't show us how did he benefit it? Did they provide his bank statement so that, let's say, the money left on Monday? Tuesday, he made a deposit of $1 million. They never showed us. Did they show us where he made a big purchase? So the money left Monday. Tuesday, he bought another piece of property for $1 million. No. The jury would just have to assume that somehow he benefited, but we never could understand where he benefited. And it wasn't explained. So the jury probably said, we don't know what happened to the money. Maybe he used it. Maybe he used it for something good. Maybe he used it for the country. Maybe he didn't. We don't know. I never heard any evidence that he actually got this money and used it for his benefit. And so I can see how the jury found him not guilty. And that's a shame because prosecutors decide what kind of case they bring and what kind of case they don't bring. They could have found a better case against Samuel Twe, one that was easier to prove. I mean, if if Samuel Twe has some sanctions against him, the Magnitsky sanctions against him, maybe they could have found a case that was better suited and easier for them to prove. But it goes back to the complete incompetence of not being able to figure out how to prove a case, one as high profile as this. You know, in the United States, they say when the FBI brings a case, by 90% of the time, that case is going to be found in the favor of the FBI because they have done all their homework. They've connected all the dots. There is almost no room for any doubt that something happened. And that's what you have to go into court with when you're doing a criminal case. You have to have all your evidence lined up. And every time I read about this case, I'm not saying Samuel Toy is innocent or not innocent. I'm just saying every time I read about this case, the evidence stops when the money leaves the bank. After the money leaves the bank, we don't know what happened. What's your take, Jefferson?
Well, the truth is about this case, I've followed other cases, but this one, um, it was a very high profile case owing to the fact that it had a link to uh, what we call national security. So some of these things, once it's national security, as it is often said or done in our country, you don't audit the national security. There's no audit. So I just followed, but I did not deeply follow the case as it went on. We had our judicial reporter who went on this case. But well, like I stated, it was a very high profile case, and the government did what they could. Three persons were found guilty, but the main person, the main person whom everyone's attention was on was Samuel Tue. Seeing him now, being found guilty, many are in shock right now. They are in shock, as to why will Samuel Tue walk free, and but it's a case that it's a discussion you have to carefully look into it. But well, uh, the law is the law, and that's where we are.
Yeah, I mean, the law is the law, and if the Unity Party, and this is why we say there's propaganda in elections, and then there's the reality. You can say all you want to say. I'm going to take the condominiums. They said they were going to take George Weah's condominiums. They claimed that they were going to get all the people who have mansions. They were going to go get their houses. This was a common thing that they said during the election. They have not been successful at much of what they said. The AREPT, which was an asset recovery, hasn't gone anywhere. Not anywhere. And even in the budget, they have planned to get $10 million from asset recovery. We do not see where that will happen, especially when they've lost a huge case like this. So the propaganda of the AREPT, asset recovery, and now, this trial, it doesn't look good for the War Crime and Economic Crimes Court. And that too was something that was a promise in the campaign. During the campaign, they were saying they were going to implement the War and Economics Crime Court. Early on in the administration, President Boca signed off on this, and now he's just signed a renewal. So this court is supposed to prosecute war crimes and economic crimes. And, you know, I don't know if we lost Jefferson on the radio, but this court is supposed to prosecute war crimes and economic crimes. And this was something, a campaign promise that was made early on by the Unity Party. And we have not seen anything come of the War and Economics Crime Court. So propaganda during the campaign was high. But the reality is a lot of the things that they talked about and a lot of the things that they promised have not come to fruition. It hasn't happened for this government. And you wonder that why do they talk so much and deliver so little? The only thing I can come to, or only conclusion that I can come to, is that they are very good, the Unity Party, one of the best at propaganda. But when it comes to actually knowing how to do what they have promised to do, it's not showing. It's not showing. And look, I am just somebody who watches from the outside. I don't have, any clear. I want the country to succeed no matter who is running the country. But I'm not seeing the Unity Party deliver on the things they said they were going to deliver on. And I think Liberians deserve much better. So let me give you an example. This Samuel Twer case, if they were not sure they could win it 100%, they should have not brought this case. If they were sure that they were going to win this case, then they bring this case. You see, the issue with this case is where they lost is they keep saying for national security reasons, they cannot audit the NSA. So there was a big question mark as to what happened to the money. Where did it go? What was it used for? And that was a question that would probably be used against them during the case. So if you know that you cannot prove, and 6 million US dollars is not small money. The money went somewhere. Something happened to this money. But they were not able to answer that question. Where did it go? What happened to it? Who had it? Who benefited from it? These are the questions that the jury will want to know. And they were not able to answer the questions from the public reporting on the case. They were never able to answer the question. They say, oh, this person had it, and this person transferred it to this account, and this account it was taken out and it was withdrawn by this person. None of these people were Samuel Twer. And whenever Samuel Twer was questioned about this, it was the money was used for national security purposes, and those purposes are not to be disclosed for security purposes. And you could choose to believe him or not, but whose burden of proof? Who has the burden of proof in a criminal case? That is the government. So the government has to tell the jury exactly, step by step, what happened to the money, who has the money, where did the money go? And in this case, the government did not show us exactly step by step where the money went. And so, right now, politically, the CDC is celebrating because I know that the story is uh, that, there were several people who were convicted and that there were others, who were found guilty. So that's what you hear a lot of the Unity Party saying, that out of the people who were brought on charges, 3 of them were found guilty. The ex National Security Advisor, Jefferson Carmel, was found guilty of criminal facilitation and criminal conspiracy. But he was acquitted of economic sabotage and theft of public funds. And former acting Justice Minister Nyanti Tuan was convicted of theft of public funds, criminal facilitation, and theft of property. So the former FIA Director General Stanley Forge, he was cleared of economic sabotage and hung on 4 other counts against him: criminal conspiracy, criminal facilitation, theft of public funds, and money laundering. So at this point, even though these people were found guilty, the government wanted Samuel D. Twe. They that was the case. That was the case. That was the big fish. We are going to go after the former president's finance minister. And they threw everything they could at him. And they did not get him. So politically, all we can say that this is a big failure on the part of the government. It's a big failure because they were not able to bring it home to get the conviction. And a lot of the Unity Party people were saying Samuel Twe is going to sleep at South Beach. Samuel Twe is going to be at South Beach. And that did not happen. So it can only be seen as a loss, as a failure to the Unity Party. And what we have seen in those last few years is a failure on their part to really understand how to use the judicial system properly. You know, you have the courts taking forever to prosecute these cases. It takes so long to prosecute these cases. You have them losing these cases. And you have, you know, they don't have the ability really to convict or to bring any kind of weight against any of these corruption cases. And they had promised in the campaign that they were going to go after big officials. So far, they've not. They've not done that. I'm not saying that they should. I'm not saying that they have the case to do it, but they said they were going to go after big officials, and they just have not. I think Samuel Toy was the biggest name of the CDC that they were going to go after. They lost. It's an embarrassment. And I don't know how they're going to recover from this, because right now they look extremely weak and incompetent in terms of trying to prosecute these types of cases. And, you know, the government, they can't afford to lose cases like this because, you know, people would have doubts about the ability of the government to prosecute in this type of case. And so far, what we have seen is the Unity Party has really, truly not shown its ability at all in these areas of war and economic crimes court, in the area of asset recovery, or in the area of this Samuel Twe case. Let's look at the War and Economics Crime Court. The president promised in the campaign that he was going to bring an War and Economics Crimes Court. I remember the day when the Senate approved it. It was such a big deal in the country. People thought they were going to see justice for all of the violent actors during the war. You know, it was a big, big thing. But, you know, some people even said that one of the things that led to Prince Johnson's death was his stress over the War and Economic Crimes Court. I don't know if that is true, but this was a huge thing that was discussed in Liberia. But since that time, nothing, not one thing has happened. I believe recently the president had to re-sign an extension of the authorization because the authorization has expired. So why are they not moving forward with this initiative that they promised during the campaign that they were going to do. And the only thing we can say is that there's a level of incompetence in the government to complete the things that they claimed they were going to do during the campaign. They've charged Finna Bonu. They took, seized all her vehicles, and then they had to let those go. Since then, they've charged her. We've not heard anything. They went after Claire Weah, served her with a subpoena. The subpoena was thrown out. And now they've lost this Samuel Twa case. So again, we just see, I'm just being impartial. We just see one thing after another. Failure, 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 failure by the government to be able to do something that was a promise to the Liberian people, which was, we're going to fight corruption. We're going to fight corruption. That has not happened. So they haven't been able to fight corruption. They haven't been able to move forward with the War and Economics Crimes Court. They haven't been able to charge successfully and, get the big fish, the people that they were really talking about during the election. And I think this is a huge, I don't see how they spin out of this. I cannot see how they try to get out of this. This is a huge, huge failure on the part of the Unity Party. This case is an embarrassment to them, and it is a huge win for the CDC. I don't know if it has an impact on the Liberian people, but I do know that for the people who voted for the Unity Party, this was something that they wanted to see get done. They felt, and this is why they voted for the Unity Party, voters felt that there was corruption, stealing, and it was at an all-time high during the CDC. And they were desperate to see people pay for that. But instead, what we do see is in this government of high level of corruption, high level of stealing. I mean, this government started out, from the beginning, before Joseph Numa Boakai was inaugurated into the office. We started out with his chief of staff going to the retirement fund and taking money for vehicles to use during the inauguration. That was before they even came into office. We saw a problem with Miata Famula and the money, the budget that was supposed to be used for the inauguration. People were saying, what happened to that money? Then we saw President Boakai, who said he was going to ride a wheelbarrow to work. All of a sudden, he has $1 million in vehicles for the presidency. Next thing you know, we see corruption happening here, corruption happening there, corruption happening here. People stealing from the government. It's just one thing after another. So even the things that they said they were going to do differently, we have not seen that in this government. I think one of the most incredible things that we have heard from the Unity Party was The president saying that he did not know that they were going to build a $10 million or $6 million place in Foya for him. He wasn't told. How does that happen? That you're the president and they don't tell you. They don't tell you that they're going to use $6 million or $10 million. This is unheard of. And so what we have here is, and I hate to sound like so many people, but it seemed like nothing really has changed from one administration to the other, where you had one group of people coming saying, we're going to get those people, we're going to take back all their assets that they stole. They enriched themselves with the government money. We're going to go and get that money back. We're going to seize those condominiums. We're going to take their homes. We're going to take their cars, give the money to the Liberian people. They came into power, bought cars for themselves, building houses for themselves, using the Liberian people's money, large budgets for themselves. A lot of corruption all around, from the superintendents and the hospitals and the colleges and the universities, and all the way up to the president, even the first lady's office. There was some corruption happening in the first lady's office, my people, from her own family people, making some kind of scam to scam people. So it was just so much corruption in this government that people voted for to change the country. So nothing really has changed between these two parties, from the CDC to the Unity Party. Nothing really is different. And right now, I don't know how the Unity Party is going to recover from this, because this was a large hit that they took. Large hit that they took on the justice, or their ability to fight corruption and fight corruption and try to get assets back and try to recover money. And I wonder how they think they're going to be able to I see. I'm reading a message from Jefferson, and he's saying that they are having a very heavy downpour of rain and of lightning. So they have to shut the station down. So they have to shut the station down because of the rain in Liberia. So there won't be any calls tonight. Won't be taking any calls. But the rain has shut the station down. So anyway, we will talk about so we're talking about the War Crimes Court, which I think a lot of people were looking forward to, because so much happened during the war, and people really wanted to heal from the war. They wanted to get to a place where they could talk about what happened and see that justice was done to some of these people who were part of the worst atrocities that happened during the war. And this was a campaign promise from the Unity Party, and it has not come to pass. It just keeps knocking around here and knocking around there and knocking around here. So it still hasn't come to pass. And so we are on LIB Future TV. We're going to keep following this campaign promise of the Unity Party. We're going to keep holding their feet to the fire And we're going to keep asking questions and comparing what they said during the campaign and what has happened in reality, um, during the reality their uh, of the way that they are governing this country. So our next topic that we're going to talk about was the Vice President Kuhn, and whether or not this is politics now, whether or not he really got set up by the Unity Party, or he's getting set up by the Unity Party to take the blame for the failures of the administration. And the reason why I say this is because back when President Buckeye started this whole entire journey of his career to become president, this latest election in 2023, he was part of the CPP, and it was Unity Party, Liberty Party, the ANC, and I believe it was Benani Yuri's party. They were all in the CPP, and they were supposed to go to a convention. Then President Buckeye, Liberty Party, the part that was attached to Yambly Conga Lawrence, they all decided they were going to get out. They blamed Mr. Cummings, made up a story about fingering the documents. They had the CDC come in and prosecute Mr. Cummings. And in the end, the court decided that the Unity Party and the rest of these other parties could remove themselves from the CPP. During that time, President Buckeye testified he did not know Alexander Cummings. He didn't know him. This is even after he has, even after he has been to Atlanta, visited with Mr. Cummings. They knew each other well. I believe they went to school together at some point. He said he didn't know him. They even served together on the CPP. Said he didn't know him. So President Buckeye, at first, people were thinking he was going to go as with vice president with either Yambly Conga Lawrence or Henry Costa, but he decided to go with Jeremiah Kuhn, Prince Johnson's selection, because of the advantage they will have for Nimba County. And at the time, Prince Johnson wanted to put Kuhn on the ticket because he thought that Mr. Buckeye would not run for a second term, and that after his first term, Kuhn will become president and Nimba will finally get the presidency. Now we are hearing that President Buckeye is going to be running for a second term. So did he break his promise to make give Nimba the presidency? That's something that, I have questions about. I have questions about, because the whole reason Jeremiah Kuhn was supposed to be on the ticket with Joseph Buckeye was that then the next thing he would be running for president. But that hasn't happened. So the question is Buckeye, turning his back on the promise he made to put Nimba in the presidency? But the question, I think, for Jeremiah Kuhn is, are they setting him up for a big failure in this administration? So one of the things that came up in the first election was that President Buckeye said that as VP, he was a parked car. He was a parked car, and he was not able to do the things that he wanted to do because the president did not empower him to do anything. The president didn't empower him to do anything to implement any of his ideas. He was just a pot car. And now that he's president, he seems to be giving a lot of responsibilities to the vice president. So I thought you wanted this chance to do all of this, make all these ideas. You had all these plans and visions, but you couldn't do anything. Now you're the president and you're saying, here you go. Everything that comes up, here you go, here you go, here you go, vice president. One of the things that came up early on in the administration was they gave Jeremiah Kuhn the responsibility to fix the electricity and energy problem. And Jeremiah Kuhn went out and had a conference. He invited all of these experts to come to talk about electricity, bring their ideas, solar, how to expand the transmission. And even during the election, Jeremiah Kuhn talked about privatization of the electricity sector. But since they gave him that responsibility, nothing much has improved in the country as it relates to the electricity and energy sector. He has not reported back to the Liberian people to say, this is what I found, these are the solutions, this is what we need to fix it. Nothing. So that was the first thing that was delegated to Jeremiah Kuhn. The next thing was they said, reduce the commodity prices, reduce the rice prices, reduce the flour prices, reduce the food prices in the country. But as you can tell, just this past week, the tax rate has gone from 9% to 13% on these same items. So what's the point of reducing the price if you're going to raise taxes, my people? That doesn't make any sense. And the rice price, even though the bag of rice is different priced, but the cup of rice is the same. So the rice price hasn't even dropped. So this also has been a problem for the vice president. He hasn't been able to really solve the commodity price either. So now they've given him electricity. That had not worked out at all. Even at the cabinet meeting this week, the president was saying electricity is not good in the country. But you gave it to your vice president to fix the issue, and that has not worked. Commodity prices, that has not worked either. So let's go on to the yellow machine. Jeremiah Kuhn was put in charge of securing these like yellow machines for a good price. He went to China, went on a tour, took a delegation, took the media, found the yellow machines, brought them back. Some are in the country, some are in another country, but the yellow machines have not been put on the road. This is a tragedy because people dressed up in yellow, up and down the legislature and the unity partisans. They were screaming in the street as the yellow machines were coming by, so excited, thinking that this was going to solve the country's issues. They were going to pave roads. They were going to do so much. Each county was going to have a yellow machine. Nothing. The yellow machines are sitting. Nobody is trained to use them. They have no plan. They need money. Figure out how to store them. They're training people. But the yellow machines are just sitting down, doing nothing. So it's the same thing over and over again. So finally, with the vice president, he went to B Mountain, toured the facility, and he discovered B Mountain is making billions of dollars on Liberia's back. I'm sure he passed the dirt houses, mud houses, the poor conditions, the chemical spills in the water surrounding B Mountain. He found out that Liberia is only receiving 3% of royalties. And yet and still, since he left B Mountain, nothing. We have heard nothing. No changes, no renegotiation, no meetings, nothing. And we have the Putu Mountain that he's negotiating. And again, trying to see how that would turn out. So the question is, the argument that Joseph Buckeye was a parked car, that Ellen, didn't trust him enough to give him any real work responsibility, it seems like we now know why. We know why, because the country as it stands, he has not been able to, even as a president, he hasn't been able to really do much. He hasn't shown his expertise in much. We expected him to have 40 years of experience to fix the country, especially the agriculture sector. That's what we expected, because he was the former minister, agriculture. And with 42 years of experience, we thought that he would come in, he would know, he would not need any on-the-job training, that he would know how to fix these issues in the country. We were depending and relying on that 42 years of experience. But we have not seen it. We have not seen that experience. We still are waiting. We still are waiting for Joseph Buckeye to show us, show us your experience. Show us, what it is you learn over the years of working in government. Show us that you know how to fix the agricultural sector. Show us that you know how to teach Liberians how to grow food. Show us that you know how to fix the energy problem. Show us that you know how to take children off the street, like you said you were going to do. We've not seen much. So the issues that he has delegated to the vice president, they have not been solved. And I'm wondering if this new issue that they've given him now, which is the Liberianization policy, I'm wondering if this is all just a setup so that when it comes time, they know who they're going to blame. Because he's meeting with people on this Liberianization policy, but they don't have a plan for success. And this is the same reason why the arrest agenda is failing, the asset recovery is failing, the case with Samuel Twe, yellow machines sitting down, electricity is not functioning. They're raising taxes and saying that they're trying to lower price of goods. It's because they don't have a plan that they know how to execute. And this is the Liberianization policy. As you can see, they're having meetings with these different foreign companies and saying, we're going to implement the Liberianization policy. Then they're having meetings with Liberians saying, we're going to implement the Liberianization policy. Okay, so how does a Liberian person start the business of ice making? How do they take that over? Let's say you have a foreigner who's doing the business now. They have a rent, they have a place where they're renting, they're spending money every month, they got employees, they have equipment, they have trucks, and your average typical Liberian, do they have the money to take over that business? No. Do they have the training to run that business? Maybe, maybe not. Is there a plan in place to empower a Liberian to get into the ice making business? No. So, how do you expect the Liberianization policy to be successful if you have not created the environment for it to be successful? And see, this is why Mr. Cummings says we need to look at the environment. We need to see, what it is. How are we supposed to, you know, create an environment in the country so that it can be successful? Because, if we don't have a business environment, then the industries will not be successful. So this is a real problem for the implementation of the Liberianization policy. This is a real problem. I don't know how they intend for that to be a success because they don't have a real plan in place that they've put in place in order to train Liberians, in order to equip Liberians to function and to take over these existing businesses. So let me play a clip and maybe we can understand a little bit better how it works and how we can equip Liberians to be successful to take over businesses.
Demands on the government to manage the business.
It is often said that sometimes there are very good people who come to become president of the country, but the system and the people around them can change them. What kind of president would you be?
We gotta change the system. And again, I'm glad you mentioned that, right? Again, it goes back to keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. So, I've heard people say, oh, you can't change the system, this is Liberia. I say that's nonsense. We Liberians, we go and live in other countries, in Africa, in the rest of the world, right? And we follow the rules, we follow those systems, and there are examples of Liberians. I am one who have put new systems in place, change systems that are different and better. So we need to change the systems in Liberia, right? We need to change behaviors. Look, we have been organized this sort of unitary, centralized government, the superintendents, into the mayors. Are we holding them accountable differently, right? We need to truly, not superficial, we need to truly put responsibilities down. That's just one example of systemic changes we need to make. We need to use technology. We need to digitize the country. We need to digitize the government, e-government. Look, today, if I want to go to Kenya, I can get a visa online on my phone. African countries, right? I'm not even talking about Dubai. You can, just an example of how you can use technology, right? And when you use technology, you can reduce the corruption, all that stuff, right? Because you're not handling physical cash, right? If you think about the economy and the amount of cash that I handle, we need to encourage mobile money. We need to encourage point of sale, debit cards, credit cards, right? But technology is another way you can change the system, right? You can improve people's lives, right? We should make sure all Liberians have access to the internet. All Liberians have access to cell phone, right? Technology can begin to change the lives of our country so that you can sit in Liberia and you can work online. But our internet, it happens today by some people, right? But it needs to be consistent. It needs to happen across the country. So those are some of the systemic changes we can make to change the system, right? Change behaviors. So one of the things we did in our platform, the ANC, was we call engaging hearts and minds. How do we engage us Liberians to think about our country differently? How do you use sports? How do you use art, culture, music, religion? Those things, right? Sports teaches teamwork. It actually teaches integrity if you're intentional about it. Religion, same thing. You think about arts, music, culture. People listen to it. It can influence behavior, right? It can influence how you act, how you think, right? So if we're intentional about using those vehicles, if you invest in those things, again, that's part of the systemic change, the psychological change of our people in our country. And again, we can do these things, right? So yes, we gotta change the system.
So I think it's not as easy as just going around and making promises and trying to say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's more than that. You have to change the environment, the business environment, in order for Liberians to be successful to take over from these foreign companies.
Right? Why are we not investing into electricity, into water systems? I mentioned into tourism, into agriculture. Those are things paying civil servants more so they can have a living wage. Why we're not taking that incremental money and allocating it differently than we have in the past? Instead, we're investing more in the legislature. 103 people, over $50 million United States dollars. Why? When the average teacher.
Why do you think our budget could go up to 1.5 or $2 million on a communist presidency?
Many reasons. So when you just simplistically, it's much more complicated than what how I'm gonna make it get right. So when you compare us to Ivory Coast,
All right. So what he said was, is much more complicated than what we're going to talk about. What that means is there's a deep, deep understanding that Mr. Cummings has for how to fix these problems. And it's not just one thing, it's multiple things that have to be done before the country is able to be successful, to bring jobs, to take over jobs from these foreign companies. It's not about having a press conference and calling the media and having people come and sitting in a room so people think that you're doing things. This is the same propaganda that they won the election with, that they're trying to now use to convince Liberian people that they're doing something. That is not how you fix the country. You have to have systemic change, but also you have to have people who know how to complete things that they promise that they're going to do.
right next door, right? Ivory Coast population is about 5 or 6 times ours. We run about 5 million or so people. Ivory Coast around 33, 34 million, 6 times roughly, right? Their budget is over 30 billion United States dollars, right? So if you divide that 33 or whatever million, the budget 30 billion by 6, you get to what? 4, we should be around 4-5 billion. But that's too simple, right? So you cut that in half. You say maybe $2.5 or $3 billion. That's a very simplistic analogy.
So what Mr. Cummings is saying is that Liberia's budget should naturally be around $4 billion, but he's going to cut it in half to be conservative. And the budget should be $2 billion that Liberians should have in their budget. Remember, he said years before that the budget should be $1 billion. Liberians are just getting to that point, And it's not really secure yet because we still have not seen some of the larger money that they're supposed to be depending on. We haven't seen that really come to pass yet.
Population of 33.5 million people.
I said 33, right? Yeah. I know my arithmetic, right? Yeah. So I'm glad you check on me, right? But again, that's simplistic. But if we invest in growing the economy, that's how we'll be able to grow the budget, right? Invest in agriculture, invest in tourism, invest in housing, right? Increase make the business environment more conducive, right? Get more money from our natural resources, right? I just did a podcast on that. All of those things will grow this thing we call the economy, right? And when you grow the economy, you will get more tax revenue. And that's how you'll be able to drive, our revenue from the, 1.2 billion today to 1.5, 2 billion plus, which is what we need to be aspiring to do, right? And when you have those, what I call aspirational goals, then you sit with your team and say, okay, now how are we going to get there? What decisions we need to make? What we need to do different, right? But if you just take incrementally 50 million there, 100 million there, you'll never move anywhere. So let's be aggressive. Let's be aspirational. Let's set high goals for ourselves. Then we sit down as a people, as a team, and say, okay, if we want to get to 3 billion, right? What do we need to do? What do we need to change? What behaviors? What policies? What regulatory environment? All of those things you start to change and adjust, so you're working towards aspirational goals again, so we can begin to change our country and invest in our people. The key is we gotta invest. They say you gotta spend money to make money. That's what investment is. We gotta invest in those things that will impact the life of ordinary Liberians. And if we, in the ANC, if you look at our vision, mission, our beliefs, one of the things we say is we believe that you invest in people and the people will develop the country.
You invest in people and people develop the country.
So that means you invest in education, healthcare, you create jobs, invest in Liberian business, actually you make those investments. Liberians, with smart people, we will figure it out. We will be the ones that be better. And we'll put more demands on the government to manage the business.
So the problem with this Liberianization implementation that we are seeing from Jeremiah Coombe and how he's going about it, he hasn't made any investments in people yet. He hasn't deposited any money into any of these Liberian people in order to take over these businesses. He hasn't set up any loan program, training programs for Liberians to enter into in the areas that Liberianization policy impacts. And we talked about that on my last show: ice making, sand, bricks. Those are the areas of the Liberianization policy. Cinemas, selling used clothes. Those are the areas that only Liberians are supposed to be. Ice cream manufacturing. But there's no training that has been implemented. And what's so sad is that at the cabinet meeting that the president had this week, he was sitting there and he just said to himself, sometimes I think we should have some kind of training for Liberians. You think? You haven't set anything up? Any real training process? No loan process? How are Liberians supposed to succeed at taking over their country businesses if they don't have the money and they don't have the training? And that is why Mr. Cummings said very clearly,
right? Why are we not investing? That's how you'll be able to drive, our revenue from the, 1.2 billion today to 1.5, 2 billion plus, which is what we need to be aspiring to do, right? And when you have those, what I call aspirational goals, then you sit with your team and say, okay, now how are we going to get there? What decisions we need to make, what we need to do different, right? But if you just take incrementally 50 million there, 100 million there, you will never move anywhere. So let's be aggressive. Let's be aspirational. Let's set high goals for ourselves. Then we sit down as a people, as a team, and say, okay, if we want to get to 3 billion, right? What do we need to do? What do we need to change? What behaviors? What policies? What regulatory environment? All of those things you start to change and adjust, so you're working towards aspirational goals again, so we can begin to change our country and invest in our people. The key is we gotta invest. They say you gotta spend money to make money. That's what investment is. We gotta invest in those things that will impact the life of ordinary Liberians. And if we, in the ANC, if you look at our vision, mission, our beliefs, one of the things we say is we believe that you invest in people and the people will develop the country.
You invest in people and people develop the country.
So that means you invest in education, healthcare, you create jobs, invest in Liberian business, etc. You make those investments. Liberians, with smart people, we will figure it out. We will be the ones that prepare. And we'll put more demands on the government to manage the business.
So investing in people and starting to invest in healthcare, education, instead of investing half of the budget in the legislature. And that's one of the real problems and real reasons why the country is not going to be able to succeed under this administration unless they take a serious look at the budget. The budget is holding the country back because you're not investing in the country. You're investing half of the budget in 105 people. How are you going to change the country?
We want to implement policies that will immediately affect the lives of ordinary Liberians. So we want to immediately, for example, I'll give you multiple examples. We want to immediately invest heavily in healthcare, what we call primary healthcare. What kills most Liberians is virus. These are facts, right? In no particular order. Malaria, typhoid, hypertension, diabetes, childbirth. I think there's 6, there's one I'm forgetting. We need to make sure we got clinics with drugs, healthcare workers paid, nurses, midwives, birthing rooms. Those things will impact people's lives right away. We want to make sure we're paying the people that do the real work, police officers, healthcare workers, teachers, the military people, civil servants, pay them what I call a living wage, at least $400-500 a month. It will impact their lives right away. We want to make sure we're offering loans to Liberian businesses, all the way from micro loans, market women, etc., to medium and large Liberian businesses, great financing for them to grow and expand their businesses. It will help them directly. We want to implement a national youth service program to help with the unemployment issue. It's not the ultimate solution to unemployment, but it's a bridge to unemployment. Then we want to invest in those things that will create jobs and generate growth. We will invest more in agriculture. The first thing in the arrest agenda is agriculture. Mm-hmm. If you look at the original budget, I think they were allocating like $30 million in agriculture. You can't be serious if you're doing that, right? In the supplemental budget, I think they only allocated another $500,000 or $1 million. Agriculture is a growth driver. It's a job creator. And when I say invest in agriculture, I don't mean just farming. Farming plus building factories to add value to our agricultural products, right? So we investing in housing. Liberians in housing. It will create jobs, by the way, and it will solve a problem, right? That's another opportunity. Investing in tourism, right? If you look at Kenya today, you look at South Africa today, you look at Senegal today, look at the Gambia, big part of the economy is all about tourism. We got 350 miles of beaches. In Liberia, we got mountains, waterfalls, all that kind of stuff, right? So those are things we'll invest in that will directly begin to influence the life.
And you think the current government, headed by your friend, is not doing some of those things?
No, I mean, look at the allocation of the budget. Clarence, again, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. My favorite quotation from Albert Einstein.
That has gone so well.
We are allocating, so the budget is now going to over $1 billion. Right? By the way, in 2017, as you know, at the debate, I said back then that our budget should be more than $1 billion United States dollars, and I was ridiculed. And we should have been there a long time faster. Okay, we're there now. Check. By the way, it should be even $2 billion plus, and I can tell you why. But even though we got this increased amount, we're allocating the same way into recurring expenses, right? Into investing in the government instead of investing in the people, right? Why are we not investing into electricity, into water systems? I mentioned into tourism, into agriculture. Those are things paying civil servants more so they have a living wage. Why we're not taking that incremental money and allocating it differently than we have in the past? Instead, we're investing more in the legislature. 103 people, over $50 million United States dollars. Why? When the average teacher.
Why do you think our budget will go up to?
So investing in people is very important. And that's not what we see happening today. We're not seeing the investment in people, the investment in healthcare, the investment in housing, in sanitation. You know, this week, former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf said that the Liberian was filthy. And President Buckeye came back and said, well, it's not as filthy as it used to be. I mean, this is Center Street. This is what he says, not as filthy as it used to be. This is Liberia under the Unity Party government.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to LIB Future TV. What is your name?
My name is Martha Kemu.
Martha Kemu. All right, so I have one question for you here. How serious is the issue of sanitation and waste management in and around the market?
As you can see, they're very serious. They're making us sick. PCC, they kill the ass, the market authority to put it there. They put it here for 2 weeks, but the 2 weeks now for 2 months. They ask you every day to pay, tell them they want to clean it. From there they ask about tell them US to clean it. Up to now for 2 months, they're not serious to clean it. When we can't sell it, they say about they say they will clean it. They can complete the cleaning. They will leave the play, they will leave the tell they go home. And they affect it all. As you can see, they play all they play like social business for errors. Now they're not selling. They affect everybody. As you can see, they step it off. They make you all sick.
Okay. So what is your name again?
My name is Martha Kemu.
All right. Thank you so much.
So what we see over and over, situation after situation, issue after issue, is they're not completing the job that they said they were going to complete. The dirt, the people are walking around holding their nose. And it's a health hazard. It's a health hazard to the people. And you know, I'm not sure if this government really understands how to address these issues. I have no doubt that they want to, but there's no leadership at the top. And when there's no leadership at the top, this is when you find yourself struggling to get anything right. You know, that you can't complete a task. And so what we see is right now, the vice president has been given all of these different tasks, and they still have not been completed. And we're watching to see if, when things fall apart, if he takes the blame for the Buckeye Unity Party failure. Let's take a listen.
Of things we need to do and can do to create jobs for our people. First of all, we have to recognize that the government is not the ultimate job creator. Our people need to understand that, and people in government need to understand that the government is to create an environment for the private sector to create jobs, and I'll talk about how we can do that. So, but that understanding is very important, because when you think about it, if the government is fully staffed, maybe they will hire 70,000 people, and that's too many, by the way. That's too big a government. But somewhere in that range, 60,000 to 70,000 people. The reality is we need to find about 2 million jobs. So government will never be able to employ all the people that need jobs. So people going to government got to understand that that's not your role. That your role is to create an environment for the private sector to create jobs. So how do you create this environment for the private sector to create jobs, Catherine? In no particular order, you got to make sure your judiciary is working, the courts, so that people buying land, buying property, if they have business disputes, that is being adjudicated in a fair way, nobody calling the judge. You know them and say, Catherine, I'm a cousin there, even though she not, cheat her partner, but judge in her favor. So you gotta fix your judiciary. You gotta make business registration easy. The last time I checked, for over a year, the business registry, the website was down. You cannot encourage business if those basic things don't work. We gotta make sure for now, we put everything we consume. We gotta make sure getting things into and out of the country through the port, we gotta make it easy. We gotta get rid of the corruption in the country. You want to start a business, you want to get something approved, everybody, the hands all, they're stopping you, you can't get stuff done. So you got to fix the corruption. You got to make the ease of doing business. We got to review all our regulatory environment, our taxation, and make it easy for the private sector. Then we got to invest in Liberian businesses. We got to provide credit, all the way from microcredit, from market women, Ghana boys, etc., all the way to middle-sized and big-sized Liberian business, provide funding, credit, financing for their loans, for them to invest and grow their businesses. We need to invest in agriculture. Agriculture is a great job creator. The budget this year that it passed, the allocation of agriculture actually went down. 2025, it was 15 billion, which was too low. This year, it's 13. The average should be something like investment like 10-20% of your budget should be into agriculture, right? And yet, agriculture is the first A in the arrest agenda. But the investment is, but agriculture is a great job, and not just farming. We should be investing in processing, right? Tourism is another job creator. We should be investing because, again, we have a lot of low-skilled people. Tourism, teaching people to offer service. You can create a lot of jobs quickly and low-skilled jobs, which is what the country needs, right? Housing is another investment area. Develop a mortgage bank where people can build housing. You encourage the housing industry, you're going to create jobs, right? So these are all examples of the things we need to do to create jobs in our country. Fix the environment, business environment, judicial environment, reduce the stealing, make it easier to import and export, provide loans, financing, and then invest in these sectors that are actually job-creating sectors. And that's how you begin to grow the economy and create jobs for our people.
Very good. Very
Awesome.
good. Yeah.
So since we're talking about
The other thing I would add
the
to, Captain,
Go ahead.
is the use of technology, right? The entire processes of government should be online. We should get rid of paperwork. Look, I was traveling to Dubai recently.
We're glad you're not there now.
Yeah, exactly. No, well said. Because I was telling 2 weeks ago, I'm glad I'm not stuck there. But the point is, I applied for my visa online, and I got it in less than 24 hours on my phone. I got my visa.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing, right?
Right.
So if we want to encourage businesses to come to Liberia, we should make it easier to get visas. You do it online. It should not be all this paperwork or you got to fly to Washington or whatever else. You just got to apply online, pay the fee online. You get it. Just a simple example, right?
Right.
But the use of technology can really help us leapfrog,
Right.
right? can move our country and move the economy forward, and actually will help with the ceiling too.
Yeah.
It will help
And
with
we
the
were
ceiling.
just talking about electricity, internet, all of these things go together.
Yep, all of that go together. I heard you guys talking about that. Look, with oil, electricity, studying your lesson, you know, whether you, any profession, you know, you're a tailor, you're a bar, you need electricity. It's so fundamental. You're not going to be able to manufacture anything in Liberia that is competitive at the cost of electricity, right? So you gotta have electricity at an affordable cost, right? Because if you gotta do your own generator, your own water, etc., manufacturing will not make sense in the context of our country. And so those things are fundamental infrastructure, right? And that's another opportunity to invest, and that would also create jobs. When you take
So we need somebody who knows how to fix the economy, how to get more for our resources, because we have a government who doesn't plan ahead. One of the things that President Buckeye talked about was that demolitions in the long run were going to be helpful for the country, but he doesn't plan about how to do it. You know, you don't tell people in advance, you don't give them a chance to adjust, to reset themselves, to find somewhere else to work. You just come with the demolitions and destroy people's properties.
So we have another person here with us. Good afternoon and welcome to have your say on LIB Future TV. What is your name? Come again with your name?
Patricia.
Okay, Patricia. Are you one of those affected by the demolition exercise carried out by MCC yesterday here at the 12th Street area?
So true.
So tell me, when did you first learn about this demolition exercise that were carried out yesterday by MCC?
We were not aware.
You were not aware?
I was not aware yesterday. My food, everything was shaking when the people came. They started breaking it. All my things, everything spoiled. Everything spoiled yesterday. As you can see, everything damaged. When I was looking for money to fix it, it was for me to start something for my children to eat. Yeah. The president who voted for the president who honor the song for the particular president, he's not supposed to do the one to us. I think when you're taking it all, face the place. But the place will remain there and the post are putting all the toilet in there. They play with you remain there, they play with the dump for the people. Yeah. They say they want to Joseph Walker who agree to it, but not him. He not Joseph Walker, he need Joseph break in now. When I'm murder inside you, but he don't want inside in now.
What is your name?
Joseph break it. That he name then I will be calling him because you're not damaged there, but what you money can be for him. And now he RSC is going how he doesn't follow live our own life.
So you've been selling here for how many years?
I've been selling for almost 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and 1 year we voted for the man. And 1 year, they're not going to feel the place and that's what break it. At least when you break it, you get stuff facing. When you break it, we'll meet there. But the people start putting toilet all year.
So how will this demolition exercise affect you and your family?
It affect me, my family a lot.
Yeah, how will it affect you?
And I get no horse more. Like only they place my horse more that they were taking my children's school fees from. The way it happened that day yesterday, all my food spoiled. My children, I didn't get food to eat yesterday because everything damaged. My father, and I even cover everything to my level. I don't know when the children taking from the carry for the made it. Oh, yeah, keep running yellow machines today. They get start cleaning. So I know my things I think I will force off for when I'm going to start tomorrow and be passing around with the food. So I expect for all to live now. Yeah, they're suffering too much for all. You have to try to do something for all. They're suffering too much for all. You can't fall for anything you point out how they do.
Okay, Tigma was speaking our camera right here. All right, so that is the voice of one of the victims here at the 12th Street area. You just listen to her. How will we survive? You come and break our area. All right, so if you are there, this is LIB Future TV. Have your say on LIB Future TV, the platform where we give the people the chance to be heard. Don't you go away, keep listening, and don't forget to follow our page, LIB Future TV, for more content here from Liberia.
I think the problem is not that you want to fix the country. It's that you don't have any plans. You just come to people's place and just break it down. I mean, these people, this is where they have, you know, this is where they have a living. This is where they make their living. This is where they feed their family. This is where they get their school fees for their children. You don't give them notice. You don't give them a chance to go relocate. You don't find them a place where they can make a living. Train them to open up their own little restaurants. Give them a loan, micro loan. No. The mall that you're celebrating, the rent is so high, most people can't afford to open up a store in that place. So you could create a little cafeteria area where everybody has their own little stall, food hall. They have this in Singapore. When you go to Singapore, you can go in a food hall and it's like different stalls. You have this person cooking, this person making this person making that, this person cooking this person doing this. And these people have been in these food halls for generations. Like these are families who passed on to the next generation in the family a different way, the special way of how they cook or create this special dish. You could create a food hall. So people like this have a place where they can fix their food. And maybe you go, everybody goes in, maybe they buy from her today, tomorrow they buy from somebody else. But that's something that you could do to help her to continue to make a living. Give her 30 days notice. We're coming here in 30 days. You need to move, or else if you don't move, we're going to break your things down. Instead, just break their things down. Don't give them any notice. Don't give them any time to find a new place. And the woman said, this is what we brought you here for you to bring our heart. It's sad that they don't have a real plan on how to approach and how to fix these problems. Listen to someone who actually has a plan. When they say a plan, this is someone who knows how to do this and not only has an idea, who's not trying to just call the media to have meetings, but who actually has a plan on how to fix these things and how to fix Liberia.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may find yourself when you listen to this podcast. I'm Alexander B. Cummings, or some people call me ABC, a business person, a philanthropist, and over the last 10 years, a politician. And I'm the political leader of the Alternative National Congress. Today, I want to use this medium, and going forward, I will start to do a series of podcasts to speak to issues that our country faces, and to use this medium to challenge our thinking, to offer alternatives and solutions, because I keep saying, quoting Albert Einstein, that we cannot keep doing the same things over and over and expect different results. And today I want to speak about and talk about our whole concession regime, or in other words, how do we get value from our natural resources? Are we getting fair value? Is the Liberian people, are we getting the value we need so we can develop our country? So we can pay our civil servants, our police officers, our military people, our healthcare workers. Are we getting the resources we need, the money we need from our natural resources to do that? what is topical right now, what's happening and we're all talking about, is the issue around B Mountain. As you all know, B Mountain has a concession agreement to take gold from Kitmount primarily. And if you look at historical numbers, I think 2023, the LETI suggested that there was 1.2 million kilograms of gold extracted and exported from Liberia at a value of around $650–700 million. Did the Liberian people get a fair share of that almost $700 million that left our country in terms of our natural resources? Let me also say that this issue is not about B Mountain. This issue is about the whole concession regime, that the whole way we go about putting value and getting value from our natural resources. So it could be ArcelorMittal, it could be, Alexander Cummings company, it could be any company. If we don't revisit this concession process, we will get the same results. The current model was established during President Charles Taylor's regime. And let's keep in mind then that the circumstances were different. The environment was different. Liberia was just coming out of a war. It was a high-risk environment. And so the terms offered then were more advantageous to potential investors because they were taking a lot of risk coming into a volatile environment, if you will. But then the basic same terms, slightly modified, was approved for B Mountain in 2013 under the then Unity Party government, and then subsequently renewed and extended under the CDC government in 2023. So again, same what I call ruling class, same group of people doing the same things over and over and over, and of course, we will not get any different results. We will continue to undervalue our resources, and our people will continue to suffer. A real life example, my fellow Liberians, I was in Wiswa, I think it was in 2022 or 2023. And Wiswa used to be the diamond capital of Liberia. Today, the diamond is mostly finished, and there's no real good schools, no real good hospital, no running water, no electricity. You can hardly get cell phone signal. This is a real example of what happens when you keep doing the same thing over and over. People continue to suffer, the minerals finish, and our people's lives remain the same. They don't change. And so we have to think about doing these things differently. There are other models for how we can get value for our natural resources. One is what they call production sharing. So rather than a royalty regime or profit sharing regime, we do the arithmetic, we do the math, we understand the economics of our natural resource, and we ask the company mining our natural resources to give us a certain percentage of whatever they extract. And we take that gold, iron ore, diamond, whatever it is, and we sell it on the open market. Get the money and we use it to develop our country. Production sharing is easier, it's simpler. Another model we can look at is to set up a natural resource company. And we, Liberians, as shareholders, as owners of that company, we go to the market, we raise the capital, we hire the expertise, and we develop and we mine our own resources. There are examples of all of this around the world. In Saudi Arabia, for example, there's a company called Aramco. It is owned by the citizens of Saudi Arabia. It's one of the most valuable oil companies in the world. They own it, they extract the oil, and they sell it to the open market. So again, there are different models we should look at, but the old concession model, we have to change. We have to do things differently, my people. We cannot keep doing the same thing and expect different results. The people that are perpetuating this old model, they actually benefit from the model the way it is. They have contracts with these companies. They get bribes. They take money under the table. And in the meantime, we, Liberians, we continue to suffer. So the point is, we gotta do things differently. We gotta revisit our operating models. We gotta question the Ministry of Mines and Energy. Do they have the right operating model? Are we using technology, right, to monitor what leads our country? Do we understand the full value chain of our natural resources? I often say from the time any company in Liberia, from the time they put the shovel in the ground to take the gold or the iron ore or the diamond, to the time they pay their shareholders, we need to understand that entire value. We need to be experts in iron ore, experts in gold, experts in diamonds. Any natural resource we have, we need to understand it, because that's how we can negotiate and get fair value. These companies have to make money as well. They have to get a return, but they should not get an exorbitant amount of return. So that understanding is something we need to demand of ourselves. If we need to buy the expertise, let's go and buy the expertise, so that again, we're getting fair value for our natural resources. My fellow Liberians, this is my area. I understand economics. I understand financial systems. I understand how investors think. I understand what to look for. I understand the kind of environment you gotta create, whether it's for Liberians or for foreign investors. The point is, it has to be a win-win. It cannot be they win and our people continue to suffer. No schools, no electricity, no healthcare. This is not acceptable in 2026, the oldest republic in Africa. We cannot keep doing the same things and expect different results. We have to challenge everything. We have to question everything. The old concession model has not worked. It doesn't work. It is broken. This is not about changing existing agreements. We will enforce the current agreements to make sure these companies are living up to their commitments. But all new agreements is what we have to change. Again, out of production sharing, or we set up a national resource company, whatever that model is, but we have to get more value from our natural resources. And with that increased value, increased money, that's what that means. We can take this money and we can build schools, we can build hospitals, we can educate our young people, we can support Liberian businesses, entrepreneurships, we can create jobs, we can provide loans and credit facilities to our business people, to our market women. These are the kind of changes we can make if we challenge how we've done things in the past, and if we take a different mindset. So let me conclude by saying we can do better. Liberia deserves better. We cannot keep doing the same things over and over and expect different results. We cannot keep electing and selecting people with the same kinds of experience who benefit from the system the way it is and expect that things will change. So my fellow Liberians, thank you for this opportunity. As I said, we will have many more of these conversations. I will use this medium to engage differently, to ask questions, to challenge the powers that be, to challenge the ruling class, because today they have state power. They have the responsibility to look after the Liberian people, and we have a right to challenge them to do better on behalf of the Liberian people. So thank you, God bless you, and God bless Liberia.
We started out this Friday with, well, we were on the radio, but the rain is so bad. We're not on the radio. But we started out this night talking about Samuel Twe and where propaganda ends and reality starts. Samuel Twe, the War and Economics Crimes Court, and the asset recovery. These were all promises under the Unity Party. And as a propaganda, they are the best. The Unity Party is the best propagandist. They know how to go out there and talk about things they're going to do, and all of them sound so convinced. But the reality we see is not what propaganda they were selling, because tonight they lost a huge case, Samuel 12 case, which shows that they did not plan how to prosecute this case effectively. And the War and Economic Crimes Court, the president has had to extend. We don't see where that has started. We don't see any progress. And that was a campaign promise. And now we see no revenue, no recovery from asset recovery. And that they are depending on $10 million to come from in the budget. I haven't seen one thing recovered. They promised they were going to go after George Weah's condominiums and all of his administration who had mansions. They were going to go and take those properties and sell them, give the money to the Liberian people. None of that has happened. So they don't have a plan. Now, next topic was Vice President Coon. He was promised by Buckeye that Buckeye would only run for one term and that Nimba was going to be able to compete for the presidency comes 2029. Now Joseph Buckeye has enjoyed power. He's tasted it. It's so sweet. He's not leaving office. He doesn't want to leave. He wants to, at his age, he doesn't want to leave office. He wants to compete again for the presidency. So that leaves Jeremiah Coon as vice president. And the problem is when President Buckeye said he was a parked car because Ellen didn't give him anything to do, now that he has work, he is shifting it one by one to Jeremiah Coon. Shifting commodities, but they're raising taxes. She shifted electricity. LEC is terrible, abysmal. He shifted Bee Mountain and Putu Mountain. Nothing has happened there. And now the Liberianization policy. They have no plan to implement it. But I showed you someone who has plans, who knows how to implement things so that they work effectively and they work properly. So this time, I want you to choose wisely, to choose someone who actually has a plan and knows how to make that plan become a reality. And it's not just running propaganda just to get you to support them, but they know exactly what needs to be fixed and how to fix it, and they have the ability to fix it. Because life should not be like this. You shouldn't be like these people we saw tonight, surrounded by trash. Homes are broken down, having no way to feed their family, struggling to find food to eat. I want you to celebrate because there is a person there. There is a person who can help us to see a better future in Liberia. And these people were very happy to see Mr. Cummings, and they are celebrating because they know his future is very, very close. Well, folks, we are at the end of the road. I hope you have a great week ahead. We also have coming up on Monday, there's going to be a interview with Mr. Cummings on 50/50 Talk Show, Sky FM. That is Monday, 10:30 to 11 a.m. Oh, no, sorry, 10:30 to 11:30 on Sky FM. It'll be simulcast on Kier FM and we'll host T-Max. You know, Mr. Cummings has given so many interviews. We are still waiting to see if President Buckeye will do similar interviews or if former President George Weah will do interviews. Mr. Cummings has done many interviews. He does not hide from the press. He takes all the tough questions as a leader should. So we look forward to that on Monday. Hope you have a beautiful week ahead, a nice weekend. I know it's raining in Liberia, so just try to stay dry.
LIB, stand up. Take me back to Liberia, where the drums still play my song. Take me back to my homeland. It's the place where I belong.
LIB Future TV, giving voice to progressive Liberians, speaking about politics, entertainment, and local news.